He was just a black teenager, walking home with headphones in, when a white cop slammed him onto the hood of a car and started beating him, right in front of everyone. But what the officer didn't know, that boy's father wasn't just anyone. He was the CIA chief. And now, the system that tried to break him is about to face something it's never seen before. Jalen Carter, 16, walked home from tutoring, hoodie up, backpack slung over one shoulder, earbuds in. He wasn't loitering. He wasn't running. He wasn't doing anything wrong. Just walking home, like any teenager. It was dusk. Quiet. A row of clean white houses lined both sides of Oak Ridge Street. A place that didn't see kids like Jalen too often. And that's why the patrol car slowed down. Officer Craig Denton tapped his brakes and narrowed his eyes. What's a kid like that doing around here? He rolled down the window and barked. Hey! Come here. Jalen paused, confused, and pulled his earbuds out. Sir. Don't play dumb. Hands where I can see them. Jalen blinked, heart racing. I just live up the block. You match a description, Denton snapped. Description of who? Jalen asked. That's classified. Denton stepped out of the cruiser, already gripping his baton. First 30-second emotional hook. Why would a cop slam a 16-year-old black boy to the ground, without asking a single question? Because he thought no one would ever answer for it. Jalen backed up instinctively. Please, I didn't do anything. But Denton didn't wait. He shoved the boy against a parked car. Resisting? No, sir. The baton came down. Once. Twice. A neighbor across the street gasped. He's just a kid. Stay out of this. Denton yelled. Another hit. Blood ran from Jalen's temple as his backpack hit the ground. His phone skidded across the pavement, still recording. Call my dad, Jalen muttered, dazed. Call my. Yeah. And what's daddy gonna do? Cry to Facebook? Denton didn't know. But daddy wasn't just daddy. Across town, a secure line buzzed. Inside a soundproofed Black Ops briefing room, CIA Chief Darius Carter stared at the footage his team had pulled live from a hacked traffic cam. He didn't blink. Didn't flinch. Just stood up, slid on his coat, and whispered. That's my son. At the Oak Ridge Police Precinct, Officer Denton strolled in like nothing happened. Jalen was slumped in a holding cell, lip swollen, I read. No charges had been filed, because there were none. But they still threw him in a cell. Just in case he acted up. Denton tossed his keys on the desk and chuckled with a fellow officer. Kid had an attitude. Thought he was better than me. That's because you see a threat every time you see a hoodie, the rookie replied, half joking. No, Denton smirked. I see a problem before it becomes one. The laugh was cut short by a buzz at the front gate. Dispatch answered. Yes. A calm voice came through the speaker. This is Darius Carter. I'm here for my son. They didn't recognize the name at first. But the badge he held to the camera, sealed with the eagle crest and gold letters CIA, changed the room's temperature in an instant. Denton's smirk vanished. Wait. Darius Carter. That Darius Carter. The captain pulled up a file. His face turned pale. He's the director. The one who led that classified takedown in Prague last year. He answers to nobody. The front door opened slowly. Darius Carter walked in like a storm in a tailored coat. Not yelling. Not shaking. Dead silent. He glanced at the receptionist. Then walked directly toward the holding area. The captain ran to intercept him. Sir, you can't. I'm not asking, Darius said coldly. He reached the cell. And when Jalen saw him, the boy's face twisted, pain, relief, shame. "Dad." Darius didn't speak. He unlocked the cell, helped Jalen up, and gently wrapped his coat around him. Then he turned to the captain. "Bring Denton to the interview room." The captain stammered. "Sir, you don't have clearance." "Son," Darius said quietly. "I own this precinct now." Officer Denton sat in the interrogation room, still trying to piece together how a quiet black kid from the street had a father with global reach. He rubbed his jaw, glancing at the camera in the corner. The red light blinked steadily. The door opened. Darius Carter entered. Not storming. Not shouting. Just staring. He shut the door behind him. Click. "Do you know who I am?" Darius asked, his voice even. "Yes, sir," Denton said quickly. "I didn't realize the boy was a boy? Or a threat?" Denton hesitated. "Look, I thought he matched a suspect." "You didn't ask for ID. You didn't ask a name. You just drew your weapon and swung. And now you're going to tell me why." The officer cleared his throat. "Sometimes instinct kicks in." Darius leaned forward. "Instinct is bias in uniform." Upstairs, the captain and several officers watched from a monitor room. The rookie whispered, "Should we step in?" "No," the captain muttered. "Let him finish." Back in the room, Darius opened a folder and spread photos on the table. "These are 8 black teenagers arrested in this district in the last 60 days. Want to guess what they have in common?" Denton looked away. "You didn't check names, IDs, or warrants on any of them. Just skin tone and zip code." "Sir, I'm not racist." Darius leaned in slowly. "You're worse. You're a coward with a badge." Denton's throat tightened. "So what now?" Darius stood up. "Now? Nothing. Because justice doesn't happen in this room. It happens when the cameras roll." He paused at the door. "Smile for the press, officer." Outside the room, a CIA media team was already in place. The footage, already uploaded. Civil rights violation. Excessive force. Federal obstruction. Darius turned to the captain. "Suspend him. Then prepare your lawyers." Back at home, Jalen sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket. "They didn't even ask me my name," he whispered. "Just saw me, and assumed." Darius knelt in front of him. "They saw your skin, son. But the world's about to see you." The video was only 94 seconds long. But by the time the sun rose the next morning, it had over 22 million views. A black boy, beaten. A white cop, grinning. A quiet voice off camera. "Call my dad." And then a still image of Darius Carter walking into the station, eyes full of fire. Hashtag Justice for Jalen was trending in 12 countries. Morning anchors scrambled for segments. Civil rights attorneys canceled meetings. Outside the Oak Ridge precinct, dozens of protesters gathered, holding signs. "He's not a suspect. He's a son. You beat the wrong boy this time." Inside, the precinct was in freefall. The mayor called. Then the governor. Then Washington. By noon, Denton had been placed on administrative leave, pending investigation. But Darius wasn't interested in temporary measures. He met with the state attorney general behind closed doors. "I'm not here for one apology," he said. "I'm here for every kid whose name never made the news." At home, Jalen scrolled through his phone. His face, swollen the night before, was now on news banners and hashtags. "I didn't want this kind of fame," he said quietly. Nina, his mom, sat beside him. "It's not fame, baby. It's a reckoning." Darius entered the room, still on a call. We've got whistleblowers in that department now. Internal files. Body cam footage from 3 months ago missing. He looked at Jalen. You just opened the floodgates, son. That evening, an emergency press conference was held. Darius stood at the podium. Calm. Controlled. A silent storm behind his eyes. This is not about my son. This is about a system that assumes guilt based on color. And acts before it asks. Flashes popped. Reporters shouted. Will the officer be fired? What's next for your son? Are you suing the city? Darius raised a hand. We're not seeking vengeance. We're demanding reform. That night, after the cameras shut off and the crowd dispersed, the house was finally quiet. Too quiet. Jalen sat alone in his room, hoodie pulled up, lights off, staring at the wall. The bruises on his face had started to fade, but the ones inside hadn't. Flashback. He was 9 years old, riding in the back seat of his dad's SUV when they were pulled over. License and registration, the officer barked. I'm CIA, Darius had said, showing his ID. The cop paused. Still didn't lower his hand from the holster. That moment had stayed with Jalen. Because even then, even when your dad worked for the country, your skin could still be treated like a threat. Back in the present, Nina walked in quietly. You okay? He didn't answer. She sat on the edge of the bed. You were so strong out there today. That wasn't strength, he said quietly. That was numb. She touched his hand. You don't have to carry this alone. Jalen stared at his palm. His knuckles were still red from being scraped on the pavement. I didn't even fight back, he whispered. Why do I still feel guilty? Downstairs, Darius was on another call. Yes, I've reviewed the security footage. And no, it doesn't line up with Denton's report. Keep digging. When he hung up, he looked at a framed photo on the shelf, Jalen at age 5, holding a plastic CIA badge. He closed his eyes. Even he couldn't protect his son in time. At school the next morning, Jalen walked through the halls. Everyone looked at him differently now. Some whispered with sympathy. Others just stared. One white classmate stopped him. Hey. I saw the news. I'm sorry, man. Jalen nodded but said nothing. He didn't need pity. He needed answers. And if his father was shaking the system on the outside, Jalen was about to do something inside the school walls too. At Eastworth High, Jalen was no longer invisible. He walked into school and felt it instantly, silence followed by whispers. A teacher nodded solemnly. Security gave a weak, glad you're back. But no one knew what to say to a kid who made national news, by nearly getting killed. At lunch, Jalen sat alone. Until Tariq, a junior from drama club, pulled up a chair. You cool? As cool as someone who's trending on Twitter for the wrong reason, Jalen muttered. Tariq leaned in. You know, we don't have to let it end there. What do you mean? I mean we can do something. Speak up. You're not the first, Jay. Just the first they couldn't silence. Later that day, Jalen stood at the front of the school auditorium. Not on stage. Just behind the curtain, looking out. A few classmates gathered. Some wore hoodies. Some held signs. One girl had written across her shirt. I am Jalen. Principal Mitchell, a white woman in her 50s, stood nearby, tense. Jalen, this isn't the place. With respect, Jalen said calmly, this is exactly the place. If I can be beaten in your neighborhood, in front of your stores, then I can speak in your school. He walked to the mic. No script. No hype. Just truth. I didn't come here to be a symbol. I didn't ask for cameras. But I also didn't ask to be treated like a criminal for existing. We keep saying, not all cops. But what about all the kids like me who never get to explain? He looked up. His voice cracked. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here so the next black boy wearing a hoodie doesn't get profiled before he even says his name. The room went silent. Then a slow clap. Then more. And more. Until the auditorium shook. That night, Darius watched the video from home. He paused it on Jalen's face, serious, standing tall, fearless. That's my boy, he whispered. By Friday, the school protest had gone viral too. Clips of Jalen's speech were posted on activist pages, youth channels, even late-night talk shows. But not everyone was celebrating. That morning, Principal Mitchell received a call from the school board. Too much disruption, they warned. Too political. Tell the boy to keep quiet, or we will. Jalen got called into her office before second period. She folded her hands, forcing a smile. Jalen, you're a brave young man. But some parents are concerned. Concerned about me or the truth. You've started something that's hard to control. So did that cop. Her smile faded. Jalen, don't make this harder. He leaned forward. I didn't make anything. I am what they made. Meanwhile, Darius Carter met privately with city officials. The mayor, police commissioner, and state attorney sat across from him. We appreciate your discretion, the mayor said. You don't have my discretion, Darius replied. You have my patience. And it's wearing thin. He pulled out a folder. I have body cam footage missing. Internal memos ignored. And a son who almost died on camera. What do you want? The commissioner asked. Change, Darius said. Or I'll bring change myself. They didn't respond. But they felt the weight behind his words. At home that night, Jalen stared at his laptop. Anonymous messages flooded his inbox. You're an inspiration. My brother went through the same. Don't stop. But there were darker ones too. Fake victim. Just another thug with a sob story. You people love playing hero. He shut the screen, jaw clenched. Darius entered quietly. I saw your speech. Did I make it worse? Jalen asked. You made it louder. That scares them. Jalen looked up. Are you scared, Dad? No, Darius said. But they should be. Saturday morning. The Carter household was quiet, too quiet. Nina sipped coffee at the kitchen table, scrolling through another article. Jalen's face was on the cover again. This time, titled. Teen Who Shook a System. She exhaled. She'd wanted a quiet life for him. Not a revolution. Upstairs, Darius sat in his home office. He stared at a flash drive. It had arrived anonymously, no name, no label, just a note. You were right to look deeper. He plugged it in. His face darkened. Dozens of files. Internal complaint reports. Body cam footage withheld. Emails between senior officers. A clear pattern, young black boys arrested, injured, forgotten. Darius leaned back, silent. Downstairs, Jalen practiced his school speech again. Nina knocked. Want breakfast? Not hungry. She sat beside him. You know, when you were born, your dad swore he'd protect you from everything. He couldn't stop Denton, Jalen said quietly. No, she agreed. But now he's protecting every kid that comes after you. Later, Darius called them both into the office. He turned his screen around. Jalen leaned in. That's our district. Every report here, Darius said, was buried. These kids never had a voice. Jalen clicked one name. His eyes widened. That's my friend from basketball camp, they said he moved. He was arrested. Minor infraction. Never charged. But no one told us. They didn't want you to know. Darius pointed at the screen. This is why we don't stop. We don't just speak for ourselves. We speak for everyone who didn't survive their mistake. Nina wiped a tear. How many more? Too many, Darius said. But now, they're not invisible anymore. At that moment, Jalen's phone buzzed. A call from an unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. Jalen Carter? Yes. This is Officer Ryan Parker. I was on duty the night you were arrested. I wasn't supposed to call, but I saw what really happened. Why are you calling me now? Because I think you deserve to know what really went down in that precinct. Jalen held the phone to his ear, pacing. Why are you calling me, Officer Parker? Because I saw the body cam footage before it vanished. I saw Denton strike you. And I saw what he said to the captain after. Jalen swallowed hard. You mean they knew? They knew. Denton bragged about roughing up a kid to make a point. Said you needed to be taught who's in charge. Jalen's hand clenched into a fist. So why didn't anyone stop him? Because Denton wasn't acting alone. The captain authorized it. They thought you were a gang prospect, just by your walk-in clothes. Darius, listening on speaker now, kept a calm expression, but inside, his blood boiled. Why are you telling us this now? He asked. Because I have a son. And if this had happened to him, and I stayed silent, I couldn't live with myself. Do you have proof? Darius pressed. Meet me tonight. I'll give you everything. Later that evening, in an empty parking garage downtown, a black SUV pulled in. Jalen stayed inside the vehicle. Darius stepped out. From the shadows, Officer Parker approached with a manila envelope. This is everything. Internal memos. Deleted cam files. And a list of the kids they targeted over the past year. Darius took it. Why didn't you report this officially? Because no one would listen. But they'll listen to you. He turned to leave, then paused. Be careful. Once you shine a light this bright, the ones in power don't go quietly. That night, back at home, Darius reviewed the files with Nina. Jalen sat nearby, silent. They planned it, he whispered. They planned to break me. Darius looked at him. They failed. He turned to his wife. It's time. Time for what? For the world to hear it all. Darius didn't sleep that night. He spent hours reviewing Parker's files. Names. Dates. Missing footage. Fabricated arrest logs. A pattern so corrupt it was no longer just profiling, it was policy. By morning, the war room in Darius's home office was live. Laptop screens displayed evidence. A whiteboard tracked connections. CIA analysts, off the record, helped verify every piece. Nina placed a hand on his shoulder. Are you sure you want to go public with this? It'll bring fire. Darius nodded. We're not just exposing a cop. We're exposing a system. At noon, Darius walked into a news station. They'd cleared a full hour of airtime. Jalen sat beside him, bruises faded but fire still in his eyes. The anchor greeted them. Mr. Carter, your son's story has moved millions. What are you prepared to do? Darius placed the envelope on the table. This isn't just my son's story. This is a map of cover-ups, targeting, and abuse. And it ends today. As the broadcast aired live, phones across the country buzzed. Civil rights lawyers. Senators. Mayors. Families whose sons were listed in the files. The nation watched as Darius unfolded pages of truth. Back at Eastworth High, students crowded around their phones. "He's doing it," one whispered. "He's actually taking them down." Jalen's teacher turned up the classroom TV. "Class," she said, "today's history lesson is happening right now." By evening, the DOJ had opened an investigation. The precinct was flooded with calls. Protests tripled. And a single tweet from a congresswoman read, "This is bigger than one boy. This is a reckoning." In the Carter living room that night, Jalen leaned against his dad. "Does this mean it's over?" Darius looked down at him. "It means we've started." By Monday, the walls began to crumble. Officer Denton was arrested, not just suspended. Civil rights violations. Assault under color of authority. Tampering with evidence. News outlets aired the mugshot across the country. His smirk was gone. And behind that pale, expressionless face, the fear had begun to show. The Oak Ridge police captain resigned hours later. Then came a press release. "Due to recent revelations, we will undergo a full federal audit." But for the Carters, it wasn't about paperwork. It was about proof. Proof that when the truth is loud enough, it can't be ignored. Jalen stepped outside their front door that afternoon. A crowd had gathered. Neighbors. Reporters. Friends. Strangers. Some held flowers. Some held signs. "We stand with Jalen. Power has a new name." He froze for a moment. But then someone stepped forward. A boy, younger than him, maybe 12, shy, nervous, holding his mom's hand. "Thank you," the boy said quietly. "My brother was arrested last year, and no one believed us." Jalen knelt down. "They believe now. And we're not done yet." Later, inside, Darius received a call from Washington. The president's chief of staff. "The director would like to meet." "I don't need handshakes," Darius replied. "I need policy change. That's why he's inviting you to write it." Darius looked over at Jalen and Nina, standing in the kitchen, watching him. "Then tell him. I accept." That night, the Carter home felt different. Lighter. Not healed. But fighting back. Nina smiled as she hugged Jalen tightly. "You didn't just survive, baby. You lit a fire." And upstairs, in his room, Jalen stared at his reflection. Not at the bruises. Not at the pain. But at the person who refused to break. 2 weeks later, Jalen stood at the front of a massive auditorium in Washington, D.C. He looked out at hundreds of people, senators, educators, community leaders, students, all gathered for one reason. The Carter Reform Act. Drafted by Darius. Inspired by Jalen. Backed by thousands. The bill demanded nationwide body cam transparency, community review boards, and stricter oversight on officers with past abuse claims. Darius adjusted Jalen's collar backstage. "You ready?" Jalen nodded. "You sure they're gonna listen to a kid?" Darius smiled. "They're not listening to a kid. They're listening to a man who changed everything." The announcer stepped up. "Please welcome the reason we're all here today. Jalen Carter." As Jalen approached the podium, the crowd rose in a standing ovation. He waited until it quieted. "I didn't ask to be here. I didn't want to be a headline. But I couldn't let what happened to me happen in silence. We talk about justice like it's a thing we wait for. But justice doesn't wait. Justice demands." His voice cracked slightly, but he pushed on. "This bill won't fix everything. But it's a start. And I promise, we won't stop here." Back home that night, the Carter family sat around the dinner table, together, at peace. No cameras. No protest signs. Just family. Jalen laughed for the first time in weeks. "You think I'll ever be normal again?" Nina chuckled. No, baby. You're gonna be extraordinary. Darius raised his glass. To the boy they tried to silence. Who made the whole country listen. Across the country, changes had already begun. Departments launched audits. Officers were fired. Others resigned. And somewhere in a classroom, a kid wore a hoodie proudly, not as a threat, but as a symbol. Of resistance. Of survival. Of hope. 3 months later. Oakridge, once a quiet suburb where Jalen's life nearly ended, had changed forever. The old police captain's office was empty. A new chief, a black woman named Valerie Nash, now wore the badge. Body cams were mandatory. Community liaisons were active. And hanging in the main hallway of Eastworth High was a permanent plaque. Jalen Carter Auditorium, in honor of courage, truth, and unshakable voice. On dedication day, Jalen stood in front of the student body. His classmates, the same ones who used to ignore him, now clapped with pride. Even Principal Mitchell, once hesitant, stood beside him. "You taught us more than textbooks ever could," she said. Jalen smiled. "I just told the truth. And the truth did the rest." Outside the school, a mural had been painted. Jalen's face in bold colors. Next to him, words he once said. "I didn't fight with fists. I fought by standing." It became a selfie spot. A symbol. A warning to anyone who thought silence meant weakness. Back in D.C., Darius now worked with civil rights task forces. He'd turned down promotions inside the CIA. "Some fights can't be fought from the shadows," he told reporters. In his office hung one framed photo. Jalen at the podium. A nation behind him. At home one night, Jalen sat beside his mother on the porch. "You think they'll forget me one day?" he asked. Nina looked at him softly. "They'll forget the hashtags. Maybe even the headlines. But they'll remember the boy who stood up. And never backed down." Darius stepped outside, arms crossed, proud. "They'll remember you, son. Because you didn't wait to be called a hero. You just acted like one." In another town, a cop pulled over a black teen. This time, he didn't raise his weapon. He asked for ID. He spoke with respect. Because now, the world had changed. 1 year later. The world kept moving. New stories. New scandals. New headlines. But in Oakridge, and in homes across America, Jalen Carter's name was still spoken. His story wasn't just retold. It was taught. In classrooms. This is what standing for justice looks like. In courtrooms. Let the Carter precedent guide this case. In living rooms. "Mom, could that ever happen to me?" "It used to. But now, we fight back." Jalen didn't chase fame. He turned down interviews, book deals, documentaries. Instead, he built something quieter, but stronger. A youth-led platform called Voice, giving teens legal resources, media education, and a space to speak their truth. "We don't need saviors," he wrote on the homepage. "We need systems that see us." One day, as he and Darius walked down a quiet city street, they passed a mural on a brick wall. It wasn't of Jalen. It was of countless faces. Different shades. Different ages. Underneath. "Never again forgotten." Jalen stared at it. "Do you think we made a dent?" Darius put a hand on his shoulder. "No, son. You made a doorway." Later that night, Jalen sat on his rooftop, hoodie up, breeze brushing his face. He looked out over the city. Not with fear. Not with anger. But with purpose. He pulled out his phone, opened a blank note, and typed. "To every kid who's been told to shut up. Speak louder. To every kid who's been treated like a threat. You are proof they were wrong. Don't be quiet. Be undeniable. And somewhere, a young boy watched that clip. Tears in his eyes. Hope in his heart. Ready to be the next name they'd never forget.